Nobody's here.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm
Thank you
leaving
both
the
for being on
gym.
time.
I'm leaving the gym. I'm on my way into the office. So I'm
Okay,
going to go on
cool.
driver mode in a minute.
That's fine.
Hey, Austin. Good morning, sir.
Morning, David. How we doing?
Doing well.
Okay. As usual, we'll wait probably 5 minutes or so to let everybody get logged on.
Hey, Austin, while we're waiting on people to join, I have a quick question for you.
Yes, sir. What's up?
So tomorrow there is the group coaching and then followed by the team meeting.
Yes.
Um, Attending both of those probably would not work for my other job
Okay.
since it's during a daytime like that. If I had to pick one, which one would you recommend, sir?
Come to group coaching if you can, and then
Okay.
just slide out of there whenever you need to. Especially the next couple ones. So tomorrow, a little bit of teaser for us, but we are going to basically walk through what it looks like to get a buyer. So I'm going to show how to get a buyer agreement, how to send it to them to sign, how to set up a showing, uh, how to open a lockbox, and then we're going to write a contract. So it's going to be start to finish as if you have a buyer. So I think that's going to be a little bit more important and applicable. The
Okay.
team meetings are great. It's just they cover a lot of different stuff. Um, and those are also on Zoom. So if you ever need to leave and just kind of what Krista's doing today, throw it in the earbud or throw it on speakerphone in your car while you're driving and not watch it, just listen to it. That's totally
Right.
okay too. But I would say lean more towards group coaching for now. And then when you can make team meetings, that's good.
All right. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. It's not Mike. He's on mute.
How's it going this morning? Congrats on
There we
those two
go.
listings.
Thank you. I probably prematurely spoke because they're not technically signed yet, but they're only talking to me, so they better be using me. And it's son and in-laws, so they're related to each other, and they're moving to Arizona, so they have to sell. The this morning I know you've seen it. I don't know if anybody else has seen it, but I have this like little Yeti cup that I take everywhere, and I put it in my backpack and threw it in the car, and then I went to take my bag out of the car today, and I hadn't closed the top, so spilled water everywhere, all over the backpack, all over the car. I was like, it's a Monday, all right. So it's been a
At
good
least
day.
it was just water, not coffee.
Exactly. Yeah. Coffee goes I don't give myself a chance to spill coffee. I drink it too fast. Um, yeah, I'll probably reach out to you. I know Rhonda wants to do one of them because she's already down that way, but they want to do open houses and stuff too. So I'll get with you on that, and maybe we can have a couple other people shadow.
Yeah, great.
They're big, so one of them's like 4,000 square feet, and the other one's like 3,000. So it would be an easy one to have uh two agents at
Where are they located?
the Highlands in Chester.
Okay, nice.
Good morning, Miss Rhonda.
Good morning.
I was just talking about you.
Oh, you were? What'd you say?
Yeah, I was talking to everybody else on the call. I think I'm like 95% sure I got those two Highland listings ready. We're waiting on photos and stuff like that, and they got to sign some things. But I was saying how you had expressed interest in doing one of the open houses, so I'll follow up with you once I know more about that. But
Okay,
real nice houses, so I'm excited for them.
awesome. So
Yeah,
yesterday, I can share right quick.
yeah,
Yesterday, I did the open house
yeah.
at Greenbrier. I did a live on it.
Uh-huh.
And also I got 3 people that came that were serious purchasers. Well, one was not a purchaser. I will tell you about that one. But the 2 that were serious, the one guy is ready to put in an offer on the house.
Ooh.
So I did express that to Andrew last
Uh-huh.
night when I
Uh-huh.
finished. And then the second person wants a second look today with his wife. And so
Okay.
I told him that I would be available to show it to them today if they were still interested.
Yeah.
Also, I asked them for reviews on my Google business page, and the other person, the third person, is using the same builder for their home in Chesterfield. Well, actually,
Oh, cool.
Verona. It's going to be in Verona, but the same
Yeah,
builder.
yeah,
They wanted to walk in and see the house because they never walked into the builder's actual product.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So they were showing me the different things that they were doing to their home. But the lady did tell me, the wife said that if I sold that house, then she would let me sell her house in Woodlake to
Oh, cool.
let her know how that goes because they're looking for a new realtor.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. And that's it's funny you mentioned that. One of the things we're talking about today is so we're talking about niches or niche markets, whatever dialect you want to use, but one of the
Mhm.
ones is new construction. And one of the beauties of working with new construction is most of the time people that are buying a new home have somewhere they need to sell first. And so if they have
Right.
to sell their previous house, even if the builder themselves works with the buyer as a site agent or unrepresented or however they call it, you still have an opportunity to get the listing on where they're moving from. So I'm going to talk
Mhm.
more about that later today because I've had a lot of experience doing that when I used to work with Shell Brothers. So, all right,
Yeah.
it's been 6 minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and get started. If more people come in, that's great. As always, we start with a bold law. Where did my screen go? Hold on. Oh, knocking that off. What's up? All right. So, can everybody see my screen, by the way?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So focus on the plan, not the problem. Today, we're going to be talking about niche or niche markets, as I just mentioned. Now, when it comes to a niche, you want to be dialing in or focusing in on a type of client. This could be a type of client in a demographic sense, or it could be a type of home itself. Either way, we're getting specific and we're going small to go big. And so, what I want you to think about as we go through these is which one do you align with, and only pick one if you can, and we're going to get really granular and specific on making plans together moving forward on how you can generate more clients in that area. It is often a myth or a misunderstanding that if you focus on one type of client, you're limiting yourself. You actually become an expert in that field, and it gives you an area where you can grow further. So, an example I like to give here is when you specialize in working land, as one of the examples, there's a lot of different steps that come with putting offers or selling land that aren't around when you do a resale or a new construction home. A soil study is an obvious one. A survey is
Mhm.
another one. When you start doing more land, if that's something that you get good at or get interested in, you all of a sudden become known as the land expert, and there will be other agents that will refer deals to you, and you will attract like-minded clients looking for land because they're going to see that you had that with success. And we have one of our agents in our office, Scott Clemens, who has done this and is a living example of this. He's done so many land deals that he's the first one I think of if I see a land deal that I don't either have the wherewithal to work, or if I have questions on it, maybe I am working with a client, but I just need further resources. So again, today we're talking about finding your niche. Now, a couple stats from NAR. This is from November. This is from the profiling of the home buyer and sellers. If you Google National Association of Realtor stats, you will be able to find all of these. 25% of buyers are first-time home buyers. 15% of buyers that purchased a new home, meaning a new construction home. Senior-related housing made up 19% of all sales. Say that again.
I think most people need to mute their
Yeah, got it. Yep. I'm gonna mute everybody, and then if you need something, take yourself off mute or throw your hand up. So senior related housing made up 19% sales. Now this is 19% of sales. Now this is ages 60 and up. Now this could be a buyer or a seller. In this case, it's particularly referring to the buyer side. And then 36% of sellers bought a bigger home and 32% bought a smaller home. Now you may look at that and go, Austin, that's not 100%. The rest are bought a similar size home. And so if you're focusing on move up buyers or downsizing buyers, there are your statistics. And then if you're focusing on people that maybe they just move for a different area or a job need or something like that, there's about 30% right in the middle, about 34%, 33%, something like that, that were similar size homes. So a couple of different ones we're going to be talking about today. A type of buyer, we're going to give two examples there. You can dial into new construction. Situation clients, I'm going to give you a couple examples with that. And more importantly, you want to pick one or two of those. You don't want to just say, I focus on situation clients. Land and condo townhouse. Now, there are a lot more to this. If you Google niches in real estate, they're going to be sites that'll give you like 40 plus. The most important one is I want you to find one that you align with. All right, so let's talk first-time home buyers. Now, this is a big one. We just talked about how many of them are, how many of the home purchases are first-time home buyers. Now, that is down from years past. Typically, the last several years, NAR has said that a quarter of all home buyers are first-time home buyers, and that number should be increasing. The rising prices has put a little bit of a squeeze on that, but as rates begin to come back down and prices level off, we do expect more first-time homebuyers to enter the market. Now, you'll notice under each of these, as we go through the slides, there's some pros and some cons to each. Now, if it's a con, that is not necessarily a deterrent. It just means you have to be willing to take a few extra steps. So the first thing under first-time homebuyers is that they can be harder to qualify. That doesn't mean they won't qualify. It just means they may take a little bit longer, or you may just have to be more patient for them to save up cash or to get a few ducks in a row. Now, lean on your lender partners to do that. Now, another thing right now, and hopefully some of you have already seen some of this, is it can be harder to find inventory. Most of the time, first-time homebuyers are entry-level pricing. Now, there are ways around that, such as our off-market training we did last time, partnering with agents in here, and then going to create your own inventory. We also have grant programs available. Most of the grant programs that exist are available to first-time homebuyers. Occasionally, you'll see grants available to non-first-time homebuyers. A lot of times, those are capped in some way, shape, or form, whether it's income-based and they can't make a certain amount of money, or it's a limited amount of funds. So that FHLB grant that Jackson talked about last month has already dried up. And that was for heroes. And they did not have to be a first-time homebuyer, but they only had 250 grand available for grants, and it went away in 30 days. So if anybody tries to tell you it's not a seller's market, they're lying. Now, the favorite part about first-time homebuyers is they turn into sellers down the road, provided you follow up with them. We've talked about a 36 touch at LinkedIn here before, but if you stay in touch with your buyers, there are plenty of statistics out there that will tell you that they will hire you to sell their house when the time comes. Now, also statistics show that first-time homebuyers typically move sooner than non-first-time homebuyers, meaning they're often moving more quickly. 3 to 5 years is the average for a first-time homebuyer to need to move again, whether that's growing families, job relocations, etc. And then my favorite part about first-time homebuyers is they make strong referral candidates, especially ones that did not know that buying a home was possible. When you walk them through this new experience and you do it at a high level of service, they are much more likely to refer you. Now, another type of buyer that you could specialize in is investors. Now, I like to say there are two types of investors. Really, there's a lot more, but to put it bluntly, there are those that flip homes and they're looking to buy, renovate, and sell. And then there are those that buy and hold homes. Now, it's usually long-term rentals. It could also be short-term rentals or Airbnb, but regardless, they are buying that property to hold it. The beauty of investors is you can also partner with a property management company and get referrals on that end, both to and from. So what I do with our property management company that we refer it to is not only do we get paid a small referral fee for every owner that renews with them. However, if that owner volunteers or expresses to them that they don't want to renew their property management agreement because they're interested in selling, I'm supposed to be the first call because I was the agent that referred it to them. Now, investors do typically require a higher knowledge of markets and pro forma. What a pro forma stands for is talking about the statistics related to the house. What is the rate of return? What are the average rents in the area? What does the cash flow look like? How much money is it going to cost to renovate, etc. Investors can also be more difficult to find inventory. Now, there are ways around that. What I like to say is if you're going to specialize in inventory, you have to get, or in investors, excuse me, you have to get really good at finding inventory not on the market. Investors do not want to buy something that's in the MLS. If it's in the MLS, it's either too good to be true or it's not that good of a deal. The savvy investors are buying it before it gets to the MLS. Now, that's a whole nother training for another day. So if you end today and say, I want to work with investors, you're going to send me an email or a text offhand, and we're going to make an appointment together to talk further about what it looks like to find inventory for investors specifically. One of the examples is going to the courthouse to sit there and get foreclosure auctions. So it does take a little bit more hands-on work. All right, let's talk new construction. New construction is exploding in and around Richmond. If you haven't seen it, it's one of the #1 ways we are trying to bridge this inventory gap. Now, there are a couple of different ways to look at new construction. There is buying a piece of land, building a custom, or partnering with a builder and building a home on that land, which we'll talk about a little bit here in a second when we talk about land. And then there's the more common way, which is the builder already owns the land or they're in a neighborhood and they're building the home and you buy the home from them. And there are different stages of that. So there's what's called a spec home, which is not on our slides, but a spec home, SPEC, is a builder builds the home start to finish and you buy the finished product. So you're buying a new home, but the builder has made all the selections. Now, there are some optional spec homes, which means you can pick out certain things. So, for example, they build the house start to finish and they leave out cabinets, counters, flooring type, and paint. And you pick out those finishes. So you're limited in what you're picking, but the structural options are already picked. The beauty of spec homes is the price is what you see. The negative of spec homes is you're not getting to pick out as much. Versus a to-be-built home, which is a lot of what we see in our MLS as those kind of digitized pictures, or it'll even say in the description, this home is to be built. You're going to meet with the builder. The client's going to pick a lot in the neighborhood, and then you're going to pick out everything from start to finish, including a floor plan, changing any structural options, picking out all the different finishes, how wide the stairs are, etc. Now, some builders offer more of a cookie cutter approach where they're only going to have certain things that you can pick from, and other builders are more custom and let you pick everything. I will say the more they change, the more expensive it gets. The more they add, the more expensive it gets. A rule of thumb that you can use when talking about new construction is if it is a to-be-built home, what you're seeing in the MLS is a base price. Now, the base price is before any options or upgrades are picked. So if they are going to change things or they are going to add options or it's a to-be-built home, I tell clients, add 10% of whatever that price is, and that's approximately where you're going to end up. Now, you may say that seems really expensive, and it's because it is. Builders will charge you for every little thing, whether it's adding a screened porch or picking a little bit wider floor plan or doing a wooden railing instead of a vinyl railing or whatever. They will charge for everything because it is a change versus what their base price is. Now, the beauty of new construction is there are several price points. Typically, it's a higher price point because it's new and the cost of building something new is more expensive. There are some that are more reasonable, though. You can find a new home in the 400s in Richmond pretty easily, especially if you start getting into condo townhouse route. You can also find your $1 million plus homes in Richmond. Now, what I love about new construction is it is the easiest type of home to make social media content. You can literally do follow along with me as my clients build a home together. And this picture is intentional. You can do social media content when it's in framing stage. Obviously, get permission from the builder that you're allowed to. You can do content as the home is going into drywall or sheetrock stage, and then you can do the finished product. And so folks can literally walk along with you as you're helping clients walk through the process. The other beauty of it is the builder is going to be doing a lot of the hands-on follow-up for you. The biggest thing that you need to make sure of is that you have a buyer agreement and that you're with them when they get the home under contract. The actual follow-up steps, as far as when they're picking options out and doing addenda and stuff like that, the builder themselves will take care of. There are also built-in incentives for you and the client, meaning the commission is usually set, or compensation, as I'm supposed to say now. It's usually set and it's fixed. And as long as you get that agreement signed, it's on the contract. And they also have a lot of built-in incentives for your clients. If they use a preferred lender or preferred title company, they can get some closing costs assistance that way. And then a lot of times there are model homes, or they're just easy to show because there's a lot of inventory. What questions do we have on new construction, if any? Cool. All right. I know I'm going kind of quick today.
No, I have to, I raise
Oh,
my
sorry, I
hand.
didn't see it. Okay, what you got?
Sorry, I can't figure out how to raise my hand on here. I figured it
That's
out on my
okay.
phone. Now I can't figure it out on my computer. The, do you ever run into where a new construction build might work, specifically with one realtor or one brokerage?
Yes, that's typically on the listing side.
Okay.
So what they will do is they will hire a listing agent or a company to list their homes, and they will do all of their, so there's two types of ways to list a new construction home. You can list a spec home, which is what I was talking about earlier. That's a home that's either to be, or that's already being built or is built, and you're going to list it just like you would any other listing, just like you would a resale home. There's also what's called ghost listings, and this is most of what we see in new construction. A ghost listing is going to be the floor plan itself is advertised. They may have some pictures of a home that was similar or already built that are advertising what could be done. And then you're going to see that base price advertised. The issue with ghost listings, if you're representing a buyer, is you're not seeing what's actually available. And you have to go meet with the builder, pick out the lot, and design from there. The issue with the ghost listing as the listing agent is you're not getting paid on it because it's not going to actually ever close. It's a ghost listing. It's advertising what could be built. And then the only time you're going to move it off market or to sold is when all of their lots in there are taken or sold. That's when a lot of times you'll see days on market creep up for new construction. Now I'm going to use a personal example here. I went on 2 listing appointments yesterday in the Highlands. Those homes were built in kind of the early 2020s that I was seeing, so they are no longer new. However, they are still building in the Highlands. And so when we ran comparable properties before I got out there, a lot of the days on market are flawed because some of those things that are showing are ghost listings. So they're saying 400 days on market or 300 days on market or et cetera, when they're really never going to sell because they're advertising what could be built. The other thing is too, these homes specifically were built with things that are no longer offered. One was a Shell Brothers listing. Shell is not building in the Highlands anymore. So you cannot get a Shell Brothers home in the Highlands if you want one. You have to buy a resale. The other one was a former model home. Model homes will typically put in features or amenities that cannot be added on to their normal plans because they're showing off their ability or their finishes, etc. One in particular with this house is they had a dog room built under the stairs. You cannot build a dog room in the houses anymore. Now, if you don't have a dog, it's just glorified storage. But if you do have a dog, it's kind of cute. And so, or they might have one floor plan that has that option. So there are certain nuances you will run into with new construction. Now, on the listing side, if they are partnered with the listing agent, that does not mean that you can or cannot bring a buyer to buy one of those homes. They will still offer a buyer compensation and you will work with that listing agent. There are also builders that will have unlicensed or licensed site agents that work for the builder. Main Street Homes, that's right across from our office, is an example. They have people that work for Main Street Homes that sit in their model homes and represent clients that come in to buy their homes. Shell Brothers is another example. They do not use listing agents typically to list their homes unless they're doing ghost listings. I helped Shell Brothers launch Rivermill in 2018, 2019, 2020, which is a neighborhood in Glen Allen. I listed ghost listings for them, and then we also listed 2 of their model homes. They did not pay me a commission on the listing side if any of their homes sold. I only got a buyer side. Now, the model homes I did get paid a listing commission on. The problem is they never sold because they were overpriced by about 200K. And so there are some nuances to working with the listing side of builders. I want you to focus on buyer side of new construction when it comes to this niche market. It is too long of a process to try to get in and be the listing agent. Now, if you start selling a lot of the buyer side homes, like let's say you find a neighborhood that's, let's use Mitchell Homes, for example, that Rhonda helped do the open house with. Andrew knows one of the project managers for Mitchell Homes. So he got that listing on a home that was built by Mitchell. That does not mean he is the listing agent that Mitchell Homes uses every single time. But if Rhonda comes in and sells a bunch of Mitchell Homes, she's going to have a pretty good case to make the argument of, hey, you need to use us to sell your homes because we're getting them sold with our buyers anyways. And then the nice thing is everything is negotiable then with the builder. So one of the things that I negotiated with the listing agent or the sales side of Shell was I did not get paid anything for the listing side, but if I brought a buyer, I got 4%. So it was a little extra incentive there for me to bring the buyer. If anybody else brought it, it was 2.5 to 3%. But if our team brought one, it was 4%. And that was like a bonus. So there are some things that you can negotiate with the builder to get on the buyer side, or when you use the buyer side to get to the listing side. Good question though. And there are also some agents out there that work a lot of new construction, and that's oftentimes why it shows that they sell a lot of homes. Keep in mind, they're not necessarily getting paid. So one of the easy rat races or mouse traps in real estate is getting stuck in chasing people that sell a lot of volume or mimicking what they do. Keep in mind that volume does not translate to profit. There are a couple teams at our sister Keller Williams office in Richmond that sell a lot of houses, and I guarantee they could not tell you how much money they make because their profit margins are through the floor. They're not very good because they spend too much and they chase transactions and not profit. So I want you to keep that in mind just as your coach moving forward. It is better to make a better return on investment or a higher profit than it is to sell a lot of houses. And new construction on the listing side can be expensive because oftentimes you're paying for marketing, you're paying for photos, you're paying for staging, you're putting your signs in the yard, etc. And keep in mind, you're not getting paid that listing percentage. Now, why you would do it? One, ego, because you get a lot of sales and you show up number 1 on the charts and get a lot of awards. Number 2 is they are hoping to make up for it on buyer leads or leads that call on those houses. Any other questions on new construction? Cool. All right. Situation clients. Now, I want you to focus on one of these. There are more than this, but I want you to look at these as a couple of the obvious ones. Divorce. Now, I did not intentionally put this one first. However, divorce is at an all-time high in our industry or in our world. And so it can be a specialized area that you can target. Now, this does not mean you're going to look for people that are going through a divorce and target them specifically because they're going through a divorce. It means you're going to build relationships with divorce attorneys who are helping these folks go through with that. And then when they have clients that are going through a divorce and need to sell their house, you become the expert on navigating that transaction. It is oftentimes highly emotional. It is oftentimes one person wants one thing, another person wants another thing. And so you have to become very skilled in pleasing two sides that don't necessarily want to make a win-win happen. And so it does take a higher level of expertise if you are going to work with divorce clients. However, those divorce attorneys can be very strong referral partners. And it is not unusual for you to get one, if not both of the divorcees to buy with you as well. The open house that Krista did for me yesterday is a former divorce client of mine. Now, I knew her from a neighborhood event, but I helped her and her ex-husband sell their house that they owned together. And then I kept her as a client, quite frankly, because the husband's a dick. And I wanted to work with, pardon my language, and I wanted to work with her. She has since sold that house with me, bought another one, and is now selling that house with me. And I helped them buy their original home as a family. So this will be the 4th deal that she's done with me. And it originally started from a divorce situation. So you can get lifelong clients out of it. Now, job relocation. This is to and from. So you can specialize in people relocating to Richmond which is one of our specialties on our team because I've been here my entire life. And that is why you see some of my social media say, "You're really Richmond Realtor." And that is more from the agent referral side than it is the job relocation. However, there are companies that will relocate people to Richmond to work here. You can also get people relocating out of Richmond. Now, that is typically with firms or with companies that you have to go through kind of a vetting process to earn that. And there are some brokerages that specialize in this, so it is a little bit of an uphill climb. However, when clients need to move out of state or out of area, you can become an expert in helping with that move. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a job relocation. It can also just be an out-of-state move. Those two folks from the Highland yesterday are this example. The husband's already moved to Arizona. They're trying to move the wife and kids out there, which is the bigger home. And then the wife's parents, the in-laws, also want to move out there to be close to the kids. And so it was 2 listings instead of 1. And we're getting that because we help with the out-of-state move. Estate sale or probate sale. This is a death in the family, and there's a property either left to the children to sell or left to the estate to sell. There's some nuance to this where you have to navigate the paperwork of the probate or the will in and of itself. You can also deal with multiple heirs selling the property, so it can take a little bit of patience on that end. However, it's also a good referral partner or vendor partner source because you can be partnering with estate or closing probate attorneys that will then refer those type of deals to you. And then last, and certainly not least, although hope you have patience for this, is foreclosures, short sales, and distressed properties. Right now, foreclosures are at an all-time low. Most of it is because mortgage percentages were so low, or mortgage interest rates were so low over the last couple of years that a lot of people refinanced and were able to keep their houses. However, life happens, loss of job, extenuating medical bills, circumstances, etc. People will foreclose on their houses. As interest rates continue to climb or continue to be in this 6-7% window, you will see more foreclosures come on the market. Now, the way to get in touch with them is to partner with banks that will then own the property, and you will get the foreclosure listings. A lot of times there are trainings involved with that and an application and vetting process along with that too. So it can take a little bit of upfront homework and going through some training and specialization. Be aware you will get emails that may be spam, or they may just come into your inbox that will say you've been selected as our REO agent. If you read the fine print, that is a paid training course. Please do not do that. And if you're ever concerned about those, just forward them to me. I've had the same person emailing me once a day for about 3 years, and it's not legitimate. And so you do not want to get sucked into some of those emails. Yeah, Krista, what you got? You're on mute.
Sorry.
Hold on. There you go.
I ran into a property yesterday that I believe is in some sort of a bank-owned issue. They had a reverse mortgage. How would I go about figuring out what bank to approach for, maybe that particular property? Or is there a way to do it?
Yeah, so the owners should know. It's going to really depend on who they're paying their mortgage to. That's going to typically be the bank that takes it. Especially once you buy and close on a house, your loan is typically going to be sold to a servicer or a service provider, and they're going to be the ones that foreclose on the property. It's not going to be the original mortgage. So I'm going to use Jackson as an example. I used First Heritage to buy a house. I close on the house. First Heritage is going to sell their loan to XYZ larger service provider or secondary mortgage market. Some of the big ones are Freddie Mac, Fannie Mac, or Fannie Mae, Planet Home Lending, Penny Mac, Wells Fargo, those type of things. So if the Bank of America is a big one, they're going to be buying chunks of loans. And then if you foreclose, that's who it's going to be within. So check with the homeowners first. They would have likely gotten a foreclosure notice or a short sale notice if it's coming, not a short sale notice, a foreclosure notice or an REO notice that the bank's wanting to take possession. And that's who you can reach out to start. Now, a short sale is a little bit different. A short sale means whatever the house is worth or what it's going to sell for is not going to be enough to pay off how much they owe on the home. We have not seen short sales in a little while because home markets or the home values have been increasing so much of late that typically the amount owed on the loan is going to be less than what they can sell it for. However, you may run into this with what you just mentioned, a reverse mortgage. If somebody's been borrowing against their equity and increasing how much they owe in their property, there's a breaking point that they're eventually going to hit. Now, a short sale, what they net has to pay off the loan. So you have to keep in mind that there are going to be fees associated with that. So if my home is worth 100K and I need to net 90K after all said and done, that's going to be very tight because I'm going to have likely 6% compensation. Even if it's 5, that's $5,000. Now you're talking about transfer taxes and fees, etc. If it is a short sale, meaning the net proceeds are going to be less than what that payoff is, you have to get it approved by the bank or a court, but typically it's the bank. If you are working with a seller where you start noticing that the net proceeds are negative or very close to $0, you're going to want to ask them for their contact information of their mortgager, mortgage service provider, and you're going to want to reach out to make sure that they will approve the sale. Occasionally, this can be found much later in the process. Maybe there's a second lien on the house that you didn't know about, or they had a home equity line that you didn't know about. This can come up. And that's why it's important to use good title companies, because they will help you navigate those processes too. There is no magic sauce to what is approved and what is not approved for a short sale. I had a buyer attempting to buy a short sale many years ago. We waited 6 months for approval from the bank, and then the bank said no. And so the buyer just didn't get to buy that property. And so he had to go back to square one. So if you are working with a buyer, avoid short sales at all costs. Foreclosures are a little bit different because the bank has typically already set that final sales price. There are also bank-owned properties that will go to auction. So if you see a house that is listed extremely low or very much below what market value for that area should be, it is typically an auction home. Now, in the MLS, we don't see as many go to the MLS from the auction homes, but occasionally you will see those, and they will specifically say, this is an auction home. Please visit blah, blah, blah site for bidding. So be aware of that. I have investor clients all the time that send me properties. They're like, I want to buy this house. And I'm like, just because it's listed at 50K doesn't mean it's going to sell anywhere near the 50K. Especially if you look it up, there's usually 20, 30 bids. And they're waiting for court or bank approval. Foreclosure, short sale, and distressed properties can kind of be a training in and of themselves. So if you are interested in those, especially if you're working with investors and those kind of overlap with each other, let me know off air, because it will probably need to be another meeting or a training, and I don't want to get into the weeds too much with everybody else that aren't interested in those. Keep in mind, all of these are specific types of buyer or clients or sellers that you can work with, and no one of them is necessarily superior than others, and you don't have to work with any or all of them. So you can just say, I want to work my database in my business and help the clients that come to me that way. I have sold, I think, 1 foreclosure in 300 sales and like 4 or 5 short sales. I do not do them very often. Matter of fact, if I have them come up, I typically refer them out because they are not worth the headache and paperwork that are involved, in my opinion. Now, if you're going to specialize in, that's when you start making volume. There are a lot of agents that have made a stellar business off of these, doing foreclosures specifically, where you can get a lot of that volume, and that's where you're making up the hard work from. And you basically dial in a system. All right. Land, farm, or rural. Typically higher commission or compensation side, 3, 4, 5%. I've seen as high as 10% paid commission on a land sale. They will require more specialized knowledge. You will need to have knowledge of surveys, GIS tracks, and how to determine where property lines are, soil study periods, and then well and septic installation. Now, if you are working with a buyer that is looking to buy land and build on it, you can oftentimes find a builder that will help you take care of a lot of this, such as well and septic and site plans and study periods and that sort of thing. If they're buying land for the sake of land, you will be the expert that has to find these things. Another thing with land is it is oftentimes impossible to get financing for land. If you are getting financing for land, it is a very specialized financing type, and the interest rate will likely have double digits. So be aware of that. When clients come to you and say, I want to buy land, you need to be well-versed in asking them if they are planning to pay cash or if they are needing financing for that land. Most lenders and most banks will not give a loan on land because it's impossible to appraise, because no 2 plots of land are alike. There are not comparable properties for land. 8 acres next to 8 acres is not the same. This 8 acres borders the water, this one doesn't. Or this 8 acres has more trees than this one does. This 8 acres has better soil than this one does, et cetera, et cetera. So you can see where all the nuances and changes can come into play. And so it is almost always impossible to find a like-minded property. Now, that is where knowledge of the area and knowledge of what acres are selling for, it's usually a price per acre instead of a price per square foot. And that can still be used to factor in some knowledge to make sure your clients aren't overpaying. However, you will see, for example, 2.5 acres next to Kinloch or Hermitage Golf Course is going to be a couple $100,000. 2.5 acres 10 minutes further down the road is going to be a third of that. And it could be more profitable or better land or better suited for a build, even though it's cheaper. And so some of that is as you see it, or depending on each land. It can lead to new construction leads for investors, meaning they want to buy land, build a house, and sell that house with you. So you're getting kind of a couple deals. It can also lead to new construction contracts for folks buying to build. Now, if they're doing that, the number one way that I see this work with success is they will use cash to buy the land, and then they will use a construction perm loan or a new construction loan with one of the lenders to build the house and then close again on the finished product. They're going to own the land. They're going to buy it cash. They're going to own it outright. You're going to get a closing deal on that. Then they're going to write a contract up to build a new house, and they're going to close on the finished product, and you're going to get the deal on that. And the finished product is with a loan. Questions on land, farm, rural?
Yeah, when you close on the house after it's built, is the land pulled into that?
Usually, yeah, usually. And the construction perm loan will typically factor that into the final sales price. The fact that you already own it and it's looked at as equity. So if you buy land for 100 grand, you build a house for 400, they're going to look at it as you have a 500 piece of property with 100K in equity already in it. If that makes sense.
So the loan would be for like the 500K or whatever.
Well, the loan would be for 400 based
400.
on what you built. Yeah,
gotcha.
but the
But that'd
loan
be
to
20%.
value would, yeah,
Okay.
exactly. They're going to use that land. Now you will likely still have out-of-pocket costs because very rarely does the math work that mathy and have 20% from the land value. And typically builders want some out-of-pocket cost, whether it's option fees or down payments as collateral. And then also construction to perm loans can sometimes take more, a larger down payment. So they likely take 20 to 25% if you're building from scratch on land you already own. But that's a lender question, so it can depend. All right, couple more. Last one. Condo townhouses, one of my favorites. You will have to have knowledge of the HOA and expertise. This is pretty common. Most condos and townhouses, HOAs are pretty straightforward. I don't remember if we've talked about this before. However, this is kind of getting into contract class 101. In the state of Virginia, there is what's called a right of rescission period. This is by law, and it cannot be waived in any contracts. You're in a multiple offer, do not waive it. It is illegal to waive it, and RAR will get mad at you. What the right of rescission period is if you are buying a home in an HOA, once you go under contract, it is the seller's responsibility to order the HOA documents, what's known as a resale disclosure package, and provide that to the buyer. Upon receipt, the buyer is going to let you know they've received it, preferably in writing, and then a countdown starts. You have 3 days, and it's days, not business days. It's 3 days from receipt of the documents where they can review it and they can back out of the contract for any reason listed in that HOA documents, and they will get their deposit back. I've seen people back out because they don't allow privacy fences, they don't allow renting, they don't allow pets over a certain size, they don't allow you to paint the exterior. It can be anything. They don't allow pink elephant decoration. I mean, it could be anything. It could be whatever the buyer decides that she's fit. This is a protection for your buyer. So they're not buying into an HOA where they're not going to know what they're getting themselves into. Now, 9 times out of 10, buyer reads like 1 or 2 pages, realizes it's 150 pages long and says, I'm good. So make sure you actually have them read through it. And then that is that protection. So as you start to sell condos and townhouses, you will realize the strict ones versus the not strict ones. For example, there are some condos downtown that do not qualify for FHA financing. They will also not let you rent it out unless you've lived there for 2 years, or they will have a rental cap on certain percentages of the building. So for example, if there's 100 units, they will only let 20% of the units be rented. So if 20% of the units are rented, your client's SOL. They cannot rent their property out until one of those renters or one of those landlords sells or moves into it as an owner occupant. That is one of the things that you would find out in the HOA right of rescission period. Typically, the listing agent's going to know anyways. However, that's giving some credit to agents out there that don't necessarily know what they're doing. That's what I meant by specific financing types allowed or not allowed. Some condos will qualify for government-backed financing, FHA, VA. Some will not. And if they don't, it means you're going to have to use 20% down conventional or pay cash. Townhouses are a lot less likely to be denied financing. That is more your condo route. Townhouses usually qualify for almost all of the financing types that are available. What I like about condos and townhouses is typically the price point's a little bit better and attract a lot of different buyer types. You have first-time home buyers, you have investors that want to rent it out, and then you have folks that are downsizing as well. Another beauty of condos and townhouses is it creates an easy farm. So if you're working in a condo building and you sell a couple of units, all of a sudden you're becoming that expert or you're taking market share of the units that sell. You're creating an automatic farm based on being an expert in that neighborhood. Same thing on the sales side. It gives you easy door knocking and circle prospecting. If you're in one building, think of an apartment building because that's kind of how condos are set up. A lot easier to hit a bunch of doors at once. Same thing with townhouses. The houses are literally attached to each other. You're not walking nearly as far distances. There are a lot of condos and townhouses in our market, and you can become an expert in working through those. And you want to think about creating content or prospecting activities around that for helping folks find it. Now, what I also like about condos and townhouses is it's typically maintenance free. And so that can be an attraction to your buyer. Exterior maintenance, yard, trash, etc. is covered by the HOA. Questions on condos and townhouses? Cool. All right. Before we wrap up, I did want to give a little bit of expectations or kind of chat about how we can help each other better moving forward. Keep in mind, my job as a coach is to help you guys get things under contract and build a business that's going to continue beyond productivity coaching. I also have a team and run my own business. And so I have appointments throughout the day and I schedule coaching time. So if you ever need help with a client, or you need help setting up forms or something in the MLS, etc., the more notice you can give me, the better. If I get asked at 7, 8 p.m. at night, the night before, that you need to meet with me the next day, typically that day is already booked up. Now, it is not to say that I will be unavailable. And if it is a pressing matter or you're under a time restriction, please reach out to me and we'll navigate those waters accordingly. However, if you have a new client or if you have a new listing or a new buyer, I want to know in advance as possible so we can make sure that you're not under too much stress or turmoil trying to get things done in a timely fashion. We can kind of stagger them. So for example, if you have a listing appointment coming up at the end of the week, let me know at the beginning of the week. So we can make sure you know what forms you need, how comps are working, and if you want to role play like Krista did before one of her listings, all of that is good stuff. It will allow both of us to be in a better agreement and really help you convert the client a lot easier. Same thing when it comes to buyer side. Remember, we have to get a buyer brokerage agreement signed before we show houses. So if you have a client that wants to look at houses on Tuesday and it's Monday, A, we need that buyer broker agreement signed, and B, you need to start requesting those showings. I do not see that often where you can request same day showing appointments and get them confirmed. Now, if it's a vacant house, etc., you may have some luck doing that. However, a lot of houses are occupied by owners, and you want to make sure you're setting yourself up with success for that. Now, this is not to target anyone in particular. It's just an opportune time where I can talk to 10 of you at once. Tomorrow, group coaching, I said this to a few of you as you were logging on. If you can be there, please do so. I will do my best to record the class. However, we are going to virtually and in person walk through what it looks like to get a buyer. We're going to do a buyer agreement. We're going to open a lockbox. We're going to schedule a showing, and we're going to write an offer. And so I want you to bring your laptop if you have one, or a tablet if you use a tablet. Bring a pen. I will likely have some contracts printed off. However, I want you to know how to write a contract through the transaction desk because it is the easiest way to get one signed and submitted. And that tool is provided to us. I'm not going to say for free because it's covered in the fees that you pay RAR. and we're paying them a lot of money, so we might as well use the tools they give us. Questions, thoughts, comments, concerns? Now, tomorrow, when we write an offer, it's going to be assuming there are no other offers in place. We're going to have a multiple offer mastermind coming up down the road. It will likely be in a team meeting where we can get everybody involved. But when it comes to like how to win in a negotiation or how to win offers, we'll touch on that tomorrow, but we're going to spend a lot of time talking about that at a future date. So don't get too concerned with like strongest and best terms. I'm going to use kind of, this is my best practice. This is what I do on a normal offer tomorrow. And then we'll talk where I would change things if need be. Cool. All right. That's all I have today. I will upload the recording shortly. If you need anything, please text, call, email me, and we'll go from there.
Thank
All right,
you.
thank you.
Thanks, Austin.
Thank you. Thank you.
Austin.